Renee's Bloody Bits.
Here we go again, Malcolm. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. It's great to be back. I'm the god of movies, Malk, and I'm here to party with Mr. Bene.
So last week we did a video where we talked about movies that we wanted to see on Blu-ray that have never been released, or they were released with missing subtitles, or they just weren't complete.
Part 2 coming soon, by the way.
Yeah, it did well. People responded to it. They liked it. We kind of introduced them to films that they've never heard before. So it's going to be maybe a monthly thing.
I'm just going to blow my own horn here. And I've told you before, when you've got me in the videos, they get popular.
So yeah, we're going to do it at least maybe once a month, twice a month. We'll do them 5 movies at a time, spread it out over, I think that will keep the series going and interesting. I'm glad that video did well because I think it connected. You never know with these kind of videos what's going to do well and what's not.
What would be great, sorry to cut in there, cut you off there. Also, what I think would be great is if those films ever do come out on Blu-ray, we can talk about, oh, look, these are the ones that are out on Blu-ray now from, previous conversations. Kind of like an honorable mentions kind of thing,
So this is also a list video. I kind of want to shine the spotlight on the 90s horror films because they seem to get a lot of flack because it's the decade that came after the 80s. So we both come up with 5 movies each that these are our favorites. And in no particular order, I'm going to let you go first with Rob Reiner's Misery.
Yes, Rob Reiner, who also directed classics like Harry Met Sally, Stand By Me, The Princess Bride, I believe. And what was the other one? There was another one. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. I need to talk about the film. But this film is a classic. First of all, you've got an absolute gorgeous, sexy Kathy Bates in her most psychotic and most hottest way. I remember as a kid, I saw Kathy Bates in this and I was like, whoa, because she's like, oh, right? Anyway, James Caan's in this. You've got Lauren Bacall, Humphrey Bogart's wife. It's a great cast. It's a really good Stephen King adaptation. I actually think it's one of the better ones in the more slow building horror. You've got so many of them out there, his books. But to me, this one's the best. I love the story. He crashes, she saves him. He's like, oh, she's so lovely. She's so thingy. Oh, it's sad that the phone line's not working because it's all snowy out there. Mm-hmm. And she comes in with the peg and you're like, whoa, this is really nice. Anyway, slowly she gets more and more, to the point where she goes, make another Misery book. Misery can't die. Misery can't do this. All right. And she gets really angry with him. And he's like, whoa, 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 calm down, calm down. And he lays in bed one night. She kicks the door open. He takes his pants off thinking she's going to thank me properly. And instead, she does something else. An incredible, well-shot horror movie. But it's actually very realistic in a lot of ways. Even the ending. I love the ending. The ending's perfect. I'm not going to spoil it because obviously some haven't seen it.
It's 34 years old.
I don't care. I'm still not going to spoil it because it's one of Stephen King's best movie, best books have been turned into a movie. The other one was A Few Good Men, the other movie that Rob Reiner did. But he did a lot more than that. But that was the other one I was trying to think of. Absolutely phenomenal. The setting, the score, the cinematography, what there is of it. And I just love it. I just think it's such a dark, moody piece. It probably helped that Kathy Bates reminded me of my mother because my mother was a bit psychotic. So, and sometimes she did like to, try and break things. So, it's James Caan is brilliant in this.
What it is the book is Stephen King's biggest fear.
Yes,
is to have one of his. He's not a big fan person. He doesn't do a lot of Q&As and signings. He has a fear of some of his very, hardcore fans. And I think this is his fears put into print and obviously put into film that, he's
Yeah.
disabled, he's hurt, he can't move, and one of his crazy fans gets a hold of him and goes, look, I don't like the way your stories are going. You're changing things. And the scene with the sledgehammer, and
Ooh.
I saw it in the theaters. So this was like winter 1990. Everybody in the theater knew what was coming. As soon as she put that, what was it, like wood in between the feet?
Yeah. It was
And
like
you see
it was blocks, wasn't it? Like wood blocks.
blocks. And she could
Boom.
see her, she's going to take the swing. And, you could have not shown it and it worked, but K&B Effects had done the foot,
Yes.
and you just see it pop to the side, and it just, the whole theater screamed in unison. This is pre-cell phone days. Everybody was engaged, living in the moment. And the second one you don't see, you don't need to, the other foot, but just brutal. And I know Rob Reiner as a director, he kind of went on record saying, is it a horror film? Is it not? I think it is. It's just there's this snobbiness in Hollywood where if it's well directed, great acting, a James Caan type person, it can't be horror, right? They feel it's horror is
Horror
more
thriller.
It's Seven can't be horror because it's so well acted, and it's like, no, it's still horror regardless if it's low budget or whether it's.
I think one of the things about the movie is Carrie Bates's character. I can never remember her name. Can you remember the name?
Annie Wilkes.
Annie Wilkes. I believe that is it. Good job on remembering it.
I
you got to remember, I ain't seen this in years. So what I feel like people forget is her character, in a lot of ways, is very innocent. Very lonely, very innocent, but she gets angry. It's that simple kind of feeling that a lot of people go through when they're lonely and that in this position. Not everybody who's lonely is gonna, break your shins. They're not going to do that. Please don't do that. But you got to think of it from thinking that one of the biggest horrors about the movie is her character as she switches. It's so easy. It's so like, oh no, I can't believe I did this. I can't believe that. And it's very realistic. James Caan in it is great because he's always doing that look he does, where he's always like.
And let's not forget that Kathy Bates won an Academy Award for her role.
Yes, she did.
That's huge.
Which is huge, especially for this. But then a big part of that was probably because it was based off of a Stephen King book as well.
So that's your first pick for the top picks horror films of the 90s. Let's see what my first one is.
Whoa!
Another film that came out in 1990, just like Misery, and I did see this in the theaters. I was always a fan of the television show, but there were more bad episodes than there were good. If you watch it now, you can see the television show really didn't have a big budget, and you could see that they're working on small.
Was Tales of the Dark Side the one with the fuzzy TV screen on the where it started, and it had that kid that died and was in the computer and stuff like that? That was silly.
But this movie came out kind of at the tail end. The show ended. John Harrison directed it. He actually worked with Romero. He scored Creepshow.
Ooh.
And I've always loved anthologies. And I feel like too many stories, like if you go past 5 or 6 stories, it's one too many.
Yeah.
I like the fact that this is 3 in a wraparound. I think 3 or 4 in a wraparound is what works best.
So you're not a big fan of Dr. Terror then, with the 7?
I did like that one, actually. I think it's on the border. Like Creepshow has 5 in a wraparound. Wow. That's my max. When you start to go into the ABCs of death, there's one per letter of the alphabet, and it's only 3 minutes per segment. That's too long. Too many episodes. But this one I dig. Look at the cast. Deborah Harry. You got Blondie herself. David Johansen. Christian Slater, Ray Don Chong,
James Remar.
James Remar, thank you. Dexter's father, and every story is good. Like You open it with The Mummy. And you got Steve Buscemi in there as well. You got the Mummy episode. Then you go to the cat from hell that won't die. And then you go into the gargoyle. I know your favorite. And they all, you know what? Fairly gory. There's a couple moments that they kind of go for it,
They go all out.
K&B Effects, again, who worked on Misery, also work on Dark Side, the movie. And I think all the stories are strong. I don't think there's a weak one. And even in the wraparound where, Deborah Harry's going to cook the little boy and eat him. I think he's one of the brothers, one of the Lawrence brothers is the little boy. You can see him there behind bars. And Deborah Harry's, how much do you weigh? Because I'm going to cook your ass. I love that. It's a great film. 1990 was a really strong year for horror films.
Oh, it was, because it was on the cusp of the 80s and starting of a new era. I will say the gargoyle sequence, I never forget, I was a little boy, right? The TV was on late at night. I'm sitting there watching Jones Lamar with the hottie. She was in so many other movies. I can't think about what her name is right now, but she was quite well known at the time as like a side character. She wasn't like the biggest star, but you knew her. And the bit where he tells her and the big transformation thing, it horrified me. I used to think to myself, if I ever get a demon or something talks to me, I'm never telling a soul, because the idea of a gargoyle popping out of Donna, horrifying. But the question is, in that sequence, was the gargoyle horny for him and thought, you know what, I'll make myself into a hot babe? Or did the gargoyle just pop out of her? And if so, how did it get in?
Well, you remember at the beginning of the episode, the gargoyle killed a couple, somebody else, and said to him,
"Yeah,
your lover's vow is the name of the episode. You promise to never tell." Yeah. He never tells, and at the end of the movie or the episode, he's like, "I got to confess something," and she's like, "Why you tell me this?" And then she turns around and, "You said you'd never tell," and then she turns, and they have children, and they're gargoyle children.
That's right. That's right. So it was, yeah. So my mind's a little bit off.
Because you remember, he was a struggling artist.
Yes.
It wasn't until this gargoyle came into his life, and this woman, who is the gargoyle, he started like making great work and making a lot of money. But she said, one thing: do not say anything. Oh, also going back to the Mummy episode, Julianne Moore in an early role too.
Oh yeah.
Which I love
as well.
Well, I like how, the Mummy kind of reverses the roles. And, one of the things when they mummify somebody is they pull their brains through their nose. And he does that to a character. And, it's
I always wondered, how did the brain, I mean, I know most of our brains are this big nowadays, but how the hell do you pull a brain out? I mean, I know they kind of mush it up, don't they, and pull it out, but still.
I mean, just thinking about that part of the episode just
makes you want to wince, right?
And I dig the Cat from Hell too. I think that was a Romero scripted story based off Stephen King. That one's good too. Like the cat doesn't want to go down. Eventually, they hire a hitman, David Johansen. He can't take out the cat. The cat goes through his mouth,
yes,
into his body, and the guy that hired him, is the older guy who runs the pharmaceutical company that uses cats, right? That's the whole point.
Yeah.
They experiment on cats to make their drugs. So this cat is avenging all his feline friends that he got killed over the years.
Beautiful movie.
And then when he comes and sees, I'm going to pay you. You took care of him? Nope. Hitman's just laying down. The cat comes out of the mouth, and it's just nice on-set practical effects. Beautiful.
Is it on 4K yet?
You know what? Yeah, I have the Blu-ray Screen Factory, I think about 6 months ago. Put it out on 4K. So definitely.
I need to pick that up.
All right, let's go to Malcolm's number 2 pick.
Ooh.
This almost made my top 5. It's definitely in my top 10.
Ooh. Well, we all know who directed this. Robert Rodriguez, that hack. He didn't do anything other than this movie, did he?
He's a one-hit wonder.
Yeah, one-hit wonder. make one good film, and we've never heard of him again. What can I say about the faculty? It's got a hell of a cast. You know, I mean, a shocking cast, in fact. I mean, it's got Josh Hartnett, it's got Elijah Wood. It's got the best actor in the world, Asher. Jordana Brewster was one of my crushes as a kid. And it's also got Famke Janssen in it. There's a great scene with her in the movie. You remember where she's like walking along and it's just on her head with the thing, a bit like the Spacious bit. Do you remember that?
Isn't that where she gets hit by? They know that aliens have taken over the faculty of the school, and they hit her with the car. I think Josh Hartnett hits her with the car, and she's kind of like just like a tentacled spider, but with the head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. Yeah, and she's kind of like looking around, like it's such a great movie. I just love it because it was either this or Disturbing Behavior that was going to be on my list. Because I really like Disturbing Behavior as well. But I felt like they were a bit too similar. I know they're different, but I felt they're a bit, do you know what I mean? If you had them both. So how can I talk about this movie? This movie had a long-lasting effect on me, right? Because here I am, I think I was like 10, I think, when it came out. I'm like, I want to see more horror, mummy, right? And it goes, oh, why are they snorting coke? Oh, what's this? I'm going to snort sherbet too. Oh, you know, I always loved that test as well. You've got to do this to see, because it felt very much like The Thing.
And that's the point. It's Kevin Williamson who also wrote Scream. So he's doing a Scream number here where he's obviously referencing other films. And that whole test to see who's an alien is lifted right from The Thing. And he obviously did it on purpose. So it's all good. And don't forget, you got Piper Laurie's a faculty member. Yes. Robert Patrick is the football coach.
Yep, Jon Stewart's in it. Jon
Stewart gets poked in the eye, and it's Invasion of the Body Snatchers, kind of meets Heathers. You mentioned Disturbing Behavior and The Faculty. I enjoyed them more than Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Oh,
I think they're better films. Obviously, they don't get made if it's not for the success of Scream and Scream 2, but I think they're more entertaining films. I know that Scream Factory, it was leaked that they're doing a 4K of Faculty, but we don't know the release date yet, maybe closer to Halloween.
The 4K I'm excited for because I think it's going to look great, and I just love this film. I just feel like it's one of those films. I actually feel like this works as a serious modern-day version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers and The Thing. I really do. And I think that a lot of people love this film, but they don't always compare it to those. Do you know what I mean?
And how could we forget her role's not huge, but the nurse is played by Salma Hayek.
Yes.
Do you remember?
We all know why, don't we? Robert Rodriguez, so why wouldn't it?
Do you recall there's a scene where she's checking patients and there's a certain former guy that used to run a website that is one of the people that she's checking out, because the movie was shot in Texas. So Harry Knowles was on the set, and there's a scene where you can't miss him because he's huge and he's got the red hair and the red beard, but he got to be in the film, and Salma Hayek's like, I don't know, checking his temperature.
Lucky bastard.
Yeah, well, we know he's not so lucky because we know what's happened to him since, the fallout from some of the stuff that he's done.
She can play Martha Mama any day.
But anyways, this movie was really close. I struggled with my top 5. This was in it. I kind of bumped it for something else that it has a connection to this film as well.
I will say, going back to what you said about I Know What You Did Last Summer, I always felt Sarah Michelle Gellar's death was so underwhelming in that movie. It just felt so lackluster to me.
Yeah, it's
so was her kill in Scream 2 as well.
So again, this was not planned. The first 3 films all have effects from K&B. Misery, Tales from the Dark Side of the Movie, and The Faculty. They were hot, dude. They were, Greg Nicotero was a Tom Savini protege.
As a gay friend of my mum's used to say, it's because they're hot stuff, darling.
So the faculty, and now let's move on to.
Ooh.
I saw, huge fan of the show. It's actually probably my favorite genre show ever. So I love the series, watched it on HBO, was very excited they were going to do a film with the Crypt Keeper, and it came out, unfortunately, it came out January of 1995, and
Yeah,
that was
didn't do well, did it?
that's long considered a dump month for studios for films they don't feel like are very good. That couldn't be furthest from the truth with this film. It's perfect. William Sadler, just Jada
Really an
Pinkett.
underrated actor. He should have been a lot bigger than he has been.
I mean, just the gore, the violence, Dick Miller. There's humor, there's horror, there's laughs, there's nudity, there's gore.
Yes.
It's one of the few films that when the credits rolled, the theater clapped like in unison, which wasn't prompted. It wasn't like a special screening or, a test screening. It's just because people enjoyed the film so much. And Billy Zane is perfect as the collector. He's funny, but he's vicious at the same time. And that film was shot in one location for the most part. It really, but it doesn't feel like that. It feels like it's a bigger film.
Shoots fast, but it goes by fast as well. And I think Billy Zane's perfect because he has that detriment of being able to change between hey to you know what I mean, very easily. I mean, you see that in a lot of the films where he's in, he's like in Dead Calm.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure because there's so many of those bloody boat movies now.
Well, and also the movie opens with the opening credits from the TV show. So it automatically embraces this is a Tales from the Crypt film. And it goes into what is the making of an episode with John Larroquette, and there's a girl in the shower, and her huge boobs are bouncing around.
Ooh, and boobies.
The Crypt Keeper comes in and, cut. And, so I like it's a film, within a film. And it's
true story. The guy who plays the Crypt Keeper, you'll know his name. I don't know his name. All right. He a friend of mine, met him at Comic-Con and he asked her out on a date.
The voice is what, John Kassir?
Yeah.
Is the voice of the Crypt Keeper, and he does a lot of conventions. Heard he's really nice.
He asked her out on a date.
And it happened?
No, because she was too nervous. So
when did you first see Demon Knight?
The first time I saw it, which is going to be very shameful, is when Shout Factory released it on Blu-ray. Because I bought that and Bordello of Blood together. And I prefer Demon Knight to Bordello of Blood, to be fair.
Well, in defense of Bordello of Blood, it came second. I mean, the bar was set really high with Demon Knight.
Yeah.
Which was 95, and then we got next year, 96, we got Bordello of Blood, which I enjoy. I know it's inferior, but I still like that film a lot. It probably suffers from it's a little bit more comedic with obviously Dennis Miller, but that's what the script was going for. But this one is, first time, director Ernest Dickerson for Demon Knight. He had previously worked on Troma's, what was that, Death by Temptation?
Yes.
He did some work on that, but what an impressive film. And I know it didn't light up the box office, but Demon Knight is just a sweet, incredible, awesome film. It's just entertaining.
I think the saddest part is William Sadler should have been a lot more.
But he's in it a lot, man. You have to remember his character Breaker. He literally is in that film.
Oh no, I'm talking about in other films.
Oh, I agree.
He was such a great actor. He should have been bigger than he was, in my view.
You're right. This is actually one of the first, only films where he's not like a Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and he's just kind of on the side. And here, he is the main star. He literally, the movie revolves around him being the,
But
the
he was in
blood.
wasn't he the lead in the first Tales from the Crypt episode as well? Because
I know that he's definitely one of the original guys.
yeah, he's in the first episode. What's that episode called? Oh,
Is that where the
it's
guy
the
has
one where
the
it's
9
one where he
lives like a
electrocutes
cat?
them. You know.
I think he has 9 lives like a cat or something. Or it might be a different actor. No, I'm getting my actors.
It's no, because it's the executioner. Because and then he ends up at the end in his own. I swear that's the first episode.
Yeah, they brought a lot of the veterans from the television show, kind of made it over to the film. But
Favorite
yeah,
episode has to be the Joe Pesci episode.
93 episodes, ran for 7 seasons. I know that for a while they were trying to bring back a television show with M. Night Shyamalan producing it, but it never happened because he's the king of the twist. So I think Tales from the Crypt have always been about twist and people getting their comeuppance. But
I don't know if he is king of the twist after watching Old and all this. I don't know how these movies are still being made. I mean, some of them are really good, but most of them are a bit
not so good.
No, that one. What's that one called? One with Dave Bautista when they're on the house.
What is it? The Cabin in the Woods?
Knock something. I think.
Knock on the door.
Cabin or something.
That's it.
Knock on the door. That's it. That sucks.
Ooh, what do we have here?
Ooh, we have a hot air, and I got to be honest. When I watched her in this, I was like, I've got to see, was she in the adult industry? Sadly, not. I still know I don't know much about Asian cinema, so I just put this on the list
nothing. You know nothing. You don't own any of those films. You are not the authority on Asian cinema, but go ahead.
No. Okay, so let's can you say his name, Paul? Can you say the director's name, Paul? I want to see if you can.
I say it okay. Mick Garris said it correctly. I think it's Takashi Miike.
It is. That's it.
Yeah.
So basically, one of the greatest directors of all time, especially in Japan, obviously. So great when he had these Masters of Horror episodes, because you rarely get that in America. You rarely get that flavor, especially with people like Dario Argento. And anyway, that don't matter. What matters is Audition is one of those films that you go in and you're best knowing nothing about, because it slowly gets more and more dark. Miike does such a great job with his films. He's done gangster films, he's done horror films, he's done films that really mess with your mind in the right sense, like Visitor Q and such classics as Gozu and The Agitator, and you can go on. Anyway, this film.
He's done every genre, really.
He has. This film, I will say, I watched this when I was 12 years old the first time. And what can I say? Puberty hit at that moment. And I've never looked back. So, Audition basically starts off with a guy. He wants to meet a lovely woman to basically get married to, look after him. Basically what every man wants, really. Except he wants to audition for them, right? So off he goes to audition. This was long before people on the internet went and bought brides from Ukraine and, Russia and all this other place, which was a lot easier than this. So he's auditioning, meets this really sweet girl. The girl's adorable. She's cute. She's very family orientated. And then the nightmares slowly creep in. It slowly digs into the brain. You don't know what's real. You don't know what's happening. You don't know reality from dream. And then you're like, what's happening? Why is he in a bag? Why is there dog food? Why is this? Why is that? And then there's the bit where it just sharply gets to you, right? And you realize that she is not all that she seems. And the best part is the attire, because she looks like a butcher.
I mean, I think that's what's terrifying about the film, because generally when you think of killers, horrible people, they're usually men, for one thing. So here we have a woman, but very small, very petite, but don't get comfortable in that. What's going on between her ears is something really horrible.
Yeah.
And she sits there and waits by the phone.
Yeah.
Kind of like on her knees, looking like kind of weird. And of course, there's the bag, right?
Yeah.
We don't know what's in it. And the phone rings and the bag just bolts up. And literally, you jump and you're like, this guy's in trouble. And when she takes him down, incapacitates him to where he can't move, and then just one atrocity to this guy's body after another. And in true Miike fashion, he does not turn the camera away. He shows it lingering. And it's just this brutal session of, visceral pain.
One of my favorite moments in this is where his son comes home. And one of the most realistic things happens, in the sense that, she doesn't end up getting what she deserves because of a silly thing, but of a natural thing that could easily happen when you're disturbed and you're not realizing. And I like that. Even though it's twisted and it's dark, it's very comical as well. And that's what I like about Miike. Miike puts a lot of comedy in his films, even the dark ones. I just think you have to be in a space to be relaxed to see it. Shinya Sakamoto's that way as well with his films. Like the Tetsuya movies and stuff. So yeah, I think this is probably, in my mind, in my view, I think this is his best film, because there's so much to it. There's so many layers, and it's shot so perfectly that you could see it not just as a horror, but as a lesson about being careful what you are looking for in life. And I think that's one of the reasons why I've never basically trusted my wife, because she's very innocent and loving. And I'm like, is she going to put this outfit on and torture me one day? But, sometimes you have to find things naturally and not go looking for it, because sometimes you look for things and you find pain more and suffering in the place where you should have been looking in the first place. I feel like this is one of those movies that shows that. Plus, it also shows what goes around comes around, in a sense, because, you shouldn't feel like you can ever buy or have somebody just because you want them, but because of other reasons. Beautiful movie. Perfect.
And if you've never heard of Audition and you just played it for somebody, you wouldn't even know it's a horror film for a while.
No, you wouldn't. Not first. That's what I like about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a straight up drama. Not a lot of color, right? The palette's very kind of one tone to the film. Oh, there you go. Take care of that fly. A lot of credit, like, for J-horror being huge. People obviously go to Ringu and Ju-on, and of course they got remade and kind of kicked off. Early 2000s was big for Japanese horror, but the most prolific director who's still working today, is, I call him the king of pain, which is Takashi Miike. He's like the best that's ever come out, and probably will never be topped as far as filmmakers go.
I'd say Miike, then I would say Ishii, Toru Ishii. When you watch like the Shogun's Joy of Torture and stuff like that, you're like, my word. I'm over this then, by the way. Then I would probably say Shinya Sakamoto, because some of his movies get really, really dark. But what I will say before we get on to the next one is, can you name 2 Miike movies that you've watched that you like?
That I like? Besides Audition and Imprints? Even though, again, another hard film to watch is Ichi the Killer.
Yep.
Because it's so, just...
Best thing. It comes in with the turtle outfit on, as I call it, kills the guy that abuses the woman, and then she goes, thank you, and he goes, you're welcome, now I can abuse you. Such a great scene.
And then let me go fantasy. His reboot of The Great Yokai War.
Oh, nice.
Which I actually saw in a theater in LA probably back in 2005 or 6, and I really enjoyed that he went for something different.
Oh, I like it. Good choices. Oh, Brain Scan.
I love Brain Scan. This film I saw first renting it on VHS. I want to highlight the director for a second because I even had to look him up before we did this video and get a little bit more familiar with John Flynn. Was mostly known for action films. He did Rolling Thunder in the 70s.
Yeah.
He did Out for Justice with Steven Seagal. He did Lock Up with Sylvester Stallone.
Okay.
So he hasn't done a lot of films, but he's done good stuff. And I always grew up on video games, like most people did. And as far as feature-length films, the only thing, maybe Arcade from Full Moon a year before, but I really enjoyed going back to anthology films, Nightmares, and the episode with Emilio Estevez.
That's a really good episode.
He's really cocky, right? It's up in some arcade in LA. You can tell it's a real place. And this was like 83, at the real video games were really taking off in popularity. And he plays the game called Bishop of Battle or Battle of Bishop. I'm getting them mixed up. But eventually he gets to a stage that nobody's ever got to. The game cracks open and it comes to life, and he's literally a real life video game. And I really Brain Scan. So it came out in 94. So it really was like with CD-ROMs were taken off.
Yeah.
Even the back, there's a quote from Roger Ebert, who liked Brain Scan. He calls it Nightmare on CD-ROM. I love that because this kid is like us. He has a horror club at high school, but he's kind of the outcast. He's not fit in. He likes to lives, next door, but he's too shy to ask her out. And he gets this, he plays all the video games, but nothing's really challenged him, right? Yeah. And Brain Scan kind of gets into his dreams, into his mind, and acts out violent acts against people. And I love Trickster. I really felt like as a villain, he was original looking. Yeah. He never got a sequel. The movie wasn't a box office hit by any means. I've always liked Edward Furlong. People tend to focus on his personal stuff in real life, and I'm like, no, I look at the guy that was in Terminator 2, Brain Scan, Pet Sematary 2, Pecker, directed by John Waters. This guy, I
liked him in the British movie Blind Mice with Amelia Fox.
He was in one of the Crow sequels too. He played.
He was in the book, bad one, wasn't he? Was it Wicked Prayer?
I think so. Yeah, and he was in the remake of Night of the Demons. Obviously, he's got some issues in real life that he needs to deal with.
He's very down to earth, though. When I've watched him in the interviews, he's very honest. He's very down to earth, and he seems like the type of guy that you could easily have a conversation with, unlike a lot of celebrities, I think his greatest. Sorry, I was going to say. I think his greatest great success was obviously Terminator 2, and I think too many people focus on that and don't think about the rest of his career.
Yeah, I mean, usually young actors, either kids or teenagers, they're not the best actors, but you could relate to him. I could relate to his character in this film. Kind of. He's got like Fangoria magazines all like on the walls of his bedroom, and his happiness is in playing video games and kind of just being left alone. And him and his friend, his best friend in the film, they have a good connection. And Frank Langella is the detective looking into the murders. Yeah. Always been a great actor ever since seeing him in Dracula in '79. And I think Trickster deserved a sequel, but he never got it. But when you talk to horror fans, everybody likes or loves Brain Scan.
I think it's the right passage. I think what we've learned today is Brain Scan is about a young Bene.
It is. I can definitely relate. I think most horror fans that grew up, watching these films, that even to this day, if you look at his room in this film, it ain't much different than what most of our rooms look like now with.
That's true.
Horror movies behind us, or movies and posters. And the screenwriter, I believe, was Andrew Kevin Walker, who wrote Brain Scan. He also wrote Seven. He must have been a horror kid or geek growing up, because especially with the stuff that happens in Seven. Yeah, he just he seems to get the genre very well, and I can imagine he was one of us growing up because it really shows. I mean, so do you like Brain Scan? Would it fall in your top 10 or 20 of
Yeah,
the
I
90s?
would put it in I'd put it in my top 11.
There you go.
You know, top 11 from the 90s. I was quite lucky. I picked it up recently on DVD for 50p in a charity shop. Not, you know, I mean to get over here, region here. So I'm looking forward to watching through it again. Because I haven't seen it in a while. But it's a really, really. I would put it in top 11, and I would say probably around 8.
All right. So let's move on to Malcolm's next picks. Boom.
Wishmaster! Wishmaster. Now, you know, we've got to think about this because this is an all-star cast. We've got.
Can you name all the horror icons who have cameos in this film?
I can. Okay. It helps that they're on the back of the case, but we've got.
Wait. Don't worry.
We've got Kane Hodder, which is probably one of the best deaths in the movie. Actually, I think all the deaths in this movie are great. So you've got Kane Hodder, you've got Tony Todd, you've got Robert England, you've got Andrew Divoff, you've got isn't Ted Raimi in this as well?
I believe so. It's been a while since I've watched it,
Yeah.
but I think. But you got the
and I
main
think
icons. You got Freddy, Jason, and Candyman. So
yeah, I mean, what more can you want? You know,
And
I
again-
mean, to me, this Wishmaster movie, right? I mean, to me, it's classic. I'm surprised nobody's tried to make more now.
yeah, they made, what was it, 3 sequels?
Yeah, they made 3 sequels.
But the whole Jen story doesn't get done very often.
No, which is weird because you'd think it would get done more because it's such a easy kind of, oh, we can do this, we can do that, because nothing is off limits really.
And also, it's again, we're going to go back to K&B. This is directed by Robert Kurtzman. The K in K&B. So it's weird 90s. Not until you go back and look, you realize how dominant they were in makeup and how many films they worked on. And I know that
the makeup in this movie is outrageous, amazing. The only thing that lets this movie down now, if you ask me, is the shoddy 90s effects. But depending on how depending on how you feel about it, it actually makes it better because you think of the time. But you know, like when he goes about pointing through the bars and he's like, oh, you know, it's really weird, like Lawnmower Man style almost.
It is what, 1997 CGI effects, but it works. And you know, I saw a TV commercial for this. I believe this was a theatrically released film, Wishmaster, at least over here in the States. And I don't think Wes Craven, it says Wes Craven Presents. I don't think he had anything to do with it other than throwing his name on it just to help with, you know.
You mean like the Quentin Tarantino Presents and Jackie Chan Presents and all this other stuff?
I highly doubt he visited the set and had any real input other than, hey, Wes Craven, you know, the hottest name in horror. You put his name above your, you know, the banner and you're going to do well.
I'm going to put Malcolm Harvey Presents Imaginary.
Malcolm Harvey Presents Bene's Bloody Bits.
Yes, there you go. See, I like it. It goes really well. What I will say about this movie, though, is this and the second one, really good. They go really well together. You know, they're great back-to-back style watching. But once you get to 3 and 4, oh, my word.
Well, Andrew Divoff was not the Wishmaster in 3 and 4, right? They recast him?
No, he wasn't.
He was 1 and 2.
Yeah, 1 and 2 only. And you can really tell the difference. I think it's the 4th one where the djinn is in love and the djinns are talking to the guy and they're saying, you've got to do this. And he goes, get lost, I'm in love. And you're like, what are you doing? What are you doing? I love the ending as well. I do have a soft
spot for Wishmaster 2. That's actually directed by Jack Shoulder, who did Alone in the Dark, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge.
Oh, I love Nightmare on Elm Street too.
I think what's a Wishmaster 2 is it takes place in prison, right?
Yes, yeah.
I like
the
that.
The two Asian guys there, I don't know their names, so I'm saying Asian guys, the twins. They were in one of my favourite movies called Mortal Conquest, aka G2, which also stars James Hong and Daniel Bernhard. Absolute classic, which is basically a Highlander ripoff, where he's king. I think it's like King Arthur, and they're like supposed to be the Mongolians or something, and they're reborn again, and they go against each other. But anyway, those two guys. Now, one of my favourite scenes in the second one in prison is where he goes, "Yeah, I want somebody to kick that, out of me," and basically they just start beating and killing him. It's hilarious, but yeah, this film's the best one. This film's the best one because there's the Jinn is there. You see more of the Jinn as the Jinn. Andrew Divoff just plays the role perfectly with that look. He had the best demented looks ever that made you feel like the Jinn was always there smiling. And, I want to be beautiful forever. And he goes, as you wish. And the woman turns into a mannequin. And it's just this horror icon in my view. But one is underlooked. Two should have had more sequels with him. And I believe to this day that you really can't beat the first two Wishmasters because everybody wants to go about Freddy Krueger. They want to go against Jason Voorhees. Well, guess what? He kills them. And he kills the big... Actually, does Robert Englund even die in this movie?
I'd have to rewatch it. It's been a long time since I thought he dies. I thought all the horror icons that are in it die.
I just love the Tony Tobbit where he's in the water tank. Oh, I knew you'd pick this.
If I had to pick my favorite horror film of the 90s, it's Tales from the Hood.
Ooh.
Again, 1995 didn't set the box office on fire, but there were a lot of good horror films. I already mentioned Demon Knight, which came out in January. This came out a couple months afterwards. And honestly, other than maybe Creepshow, this is my second favorite horror anthology ever.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is how you do social commentary in horror.
Yes.
Without the social commentary overriding the story. Sadly, if this movie was released today, the woke police would come out and say it's woke.
Yeah, they would.
But that's not true. What it is, you have African-American filmmakers. One, it's produced by Spike Lee. All right. That's probably why it got theatrical release because of who he was, and he could put his name behind it and get the production value they needed. Darren Scott was a producer, directed by Rusty Cundell. And my favorite 1990 horror film is Showgirls.
Hey, Darth.
This movie is perfect. Clarence Williams III, rest in peace. Hilarious.
Very.
When you got these gangbangers that are looking for the shit. Just the shit, which is the drugs, right? Because they hit it there. And what a wraparound. That could have been a story all in itself. And it kind of is, but it could have been 20, 30 minutes.
The ending is just perfect.
Well, every episode deals with something that's very topical.
Yeah.
You got police brutality, which this movie's on the cusp of, the Rodney King beatings.
Yeah.
Just a couple years removed from that. It deals with domestic violence. It deals with gangs.
Yes.
It deals with the character who Corbin Burnson, your favorite dentist, is so good. He's basically playing the David Duke who used to head the KKK. That character is based off David Duke. And you got great effects. Those miniatures in that episode with the little dolls, that's the Kyoto brothers from Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Yeah.
Every episode is perfect. And the last story is very dark. It's very much like A Clockwork Orange. They're trying to rehabilitate him and show him the bad stuff he's done. They strap him to a chair, right? Spin him around, show him visions of, hey, you're going down the wrong path, man. You're killing your own people for no reason. But, man, The sequels are decent, but Tales from the Hood is a masterpiece. And again,
The domestic abuse one is so disturbing.
so realistic.
Yeah.
Because
so disturbing.
You have to remember, that's David Alan Grier, known for comedy from working on In Living Color. When he hits his girlfriend and then punches her and her kid, you feel it, man. You're like, this guy is fucking evil. Horrible human being. But it's done so well, but you fear him when you're watching that episode. And the little boy sees
up
him
to the end
monster,
as well.
right?
Up to the end where he's weak and vulnerable, you still feel like he could come and just,
Well, I like the thing is when the boy's in school, he's got the marks and the teachers are starting to notice, hey, are you being abused? And he goes, there's a monster in my home. It's his mom's new boyfriend. And I love that he draws the monster, and then he gets the paper and he crumples it and he twists it. And literally his character twists and bends. And I think that's
it's all what I like is it's all like a big pile of turd at the end, like
he's a big piece of shit at the end, which is what he is.
I like that.
There was a lot of different people effects wise. The Kyoto brothers, Screaming Mad George, a lot of different people contributed to the film. But so you dig Tales from the Hood as well?
Yeah, I dig it. I didn't dig the second one as much. I haven't seen the first one, not the first one, the third one. I haven't seen the third one because I got the BFI Blu-ray set, which had a lovely book in it, and it has 1 and 2. I saw them before that, but more recently. They look beautiful in in HD. But yeah, definitely my top 10. I'd put it point number 9.
Tales from the Hood is my favorite horror film of the 90s. And it's just, I have the Blu-ray. It's one of the few times if Scream Factory decided to do a 4K, I probably would upgrade. I will double, triple dip, whatever.
If they did, so if they released all 3 and they released the first one Blu-ray only, the second one in 4K, and the third one in Blu-ray only, would you buy it?
Are you talking about your Arrow box set of Desperado and El Mariachi and Once Upon a Time in Mexico? Is that where you're going with this?
Yeah, I'm just messing.
I knew that's where you were going. Now, you know what? Give me a 4K any day of the week. I believe we're upon your last pick.
Yes, I didn't know this was going to be my top pick, did I? That's ridiculous. But okay, Blade, because that's the best horror movie of the 90s.
There.
So Blade, which was directed by Stephen Norrington.
Yeah, who did Death Machine.
He also did League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, I believe. This film is just brilliant. I just absolutely love the character Blade. It's just a shame that this wasn't Blade Trinity, because Blade Trinity is even better. She's got the teeth on her. Woohoo! And what's the other one? Oh, call me Drac. Yes, that's Trinity. That's not this movie. So don't think about correcting me, guys, because I know. Anyway, Blade 1, phenomenal. Wesley Snipes as Blade, amazing. I love the intro. I love the blood spurting everywhere.
The intro with Tracy Lords, correct?
Yes. Sexy Tracy Lords. Please, I just want to say this right now. Vinegar Syndrome, buy the rights to all their movies and sell them. Anyway. They'll lose their business and we'll all end up in prison. But anyway, so this is one of those movies which is like really, really good, but also really, really fucked up. Like the bit where he sees his mum and she tries to get off with him because she's a vampire, so she hasn't got a soul now. So, you know what I mean? So she doesn't, it's really weird. And Stephen Dorff, that's his name, isn't it? The guy, Stephen Dorff?
Yeah,
because I always get him mixed up. I always get his name mixed up with Andrew Divoff And Stephen
hey,
Burkoff,
don't worry about it. All the white people look alike. It's all good.
they do. They all look the same. Anyway, he's a great villain in this. I actually think this is probably his best role as a villain. Sadly, he just hasn't got any great acting chops other than this film. And his main henchman, the ginger biker guy, is hilarious. Ah, he took my arm. He took my arm. Right. And then he gets that arm back and boom. Hi, Mike.
How you doing, Mike?
And go on.
Do you what do you think when Marvel fans say the first, R-rated Marvel film is Deadpool?
I say fuck you. Because it's Blade.
1998.
What this tells me is these people that say this one of three things. They're casuals, they're peasants, or they're just people that think they know everything when they know absolutely nothing.
And it wasn't that long ago. Blade was 1998. It's like, come on, you have the internet at your fingertips. Yeah. You can find out these things like
especially considering they recently made a TV series as well, not too long ago.
So Blade is your favorite. Where do you rank Guillermo del Toro's number 2 and David Goyer's number 3?
Okay. I rate Blade is number 1 because Blade is just incredible. The whole thing, Chris Christopherson's brilliant in it as well. As Whistler, love his character, just love that. Probably actually the order they come out, because as much as I love Trinity with the whole drag thing and the whole she's got teeth on her vagina, right? It's not good. Number 2 is great because it's got Donnie Yen in it. And it's got...
Dude, quit thinking you know everything about Asian cinema. I'm just kidding. Hey, Malcolm knows the most about Asian cinema of anybody I know. So that's saying a lot.
Ooh, that says a lot. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And it also has Ron Perlman in it. Number 2, that is. And I love that. I love number 2. Incredibly great, but not as good as the first one. The enemies in the second one, the first one is where it's at. So I'd put 1, 2, and then 3. And then I'd put the TV movie on the end, because there was technically a TV pilot movie. And then I would probably put the Blade animated Marvel series. And then I'd probably put the live action series on the end.
I think Guillermo del Toro did too, not just because he wanted to, but he knew it would be a hit, and he was trying to find funding for Hellboy. 2 was a hit, and what was his next film? Hellboy. So he knew what he was doing.
Which is also an amazing movie.
So let's look. That's your 5th and final pick, and mine's is It's a Dark Night.
The Toes.
So we're going to go back to Robert Rodriguez, and this is right before he did The Faculty. Let's just look at the cast for a second. You're probably never going to see the likes of George Clooney, Harvey Keitel, Juliette Lewis, alongside Danny Trejo, Cheech Marin, Fred the Hammer Williamson, and Tom Savini in a fairly budgeted, kind of grindhouse drive-in movie that got a theatrical release that some reason people didn't go see, and they were confused that it was a vampire film. But the trailer, plays it to be, this is Quentin Tarantino after Pulp Fiction, after Reservoir Dogs. This is Robert Rodriguez after El Mariachi and Desperado. But the trailer makes it quite clear it's kind of a hybrid of action and vampires. The trailers that I saw made it very clear. And again, I think what a ballsy film that you just won't see this kind of movie get put in theaters.
This is the time movie for when you say, what is one of those movies in modern times which really takes you back and has that real grindhouse kind of atmosphere and also all-star cast this is that type of film that you go, this is what I'm talking about. Because you had so many people in their prime, and you had people that were out of their prime, but also still had this incredible charisma, you know. So
And let's not forget Salma Hayek as Santanico Pandemonium. I mean, just okay. My wife and I have always had a list, like a cheat list. Like if there are
there
5
you go.
celebrities you can sleep with, and my number one has always been Salma Hayek. I've always liked brunettes, generally, you know,
Well, so who's her
Hispanic.
number one?
It's changed because we don't really do the list anymore. I think for a while perhaps it was George Clooney, ironically, at one time. But yeah, she still looks amazing. She's got I like women with curves, and she's full figured. And how this thing didn't get NC-17. Yeah, it's done like in a sort of campy way, but it's gory as hell and violent and just over the top.
Classic.
And the movie went for it. I really feel like this was a passing of the torch from, kind of the filmmakers we grew up with, like Carpenter and Romero. Now it's moving on to this younger generation and Robert Rodriguez was one of them. Obviously he does all genres, but I look at his best work and I feel like it's still the horror, which he doesn't do a lot of anymore.
It kind of was when James Wan came along. There was a pass in there as well. It was that kind of time. But then
Yeah, I mean, it's such a gas of a film. It's just kind of like relentless, never lets go. It just once you get to the titty twister, it takes probably 45 minutes or so to get there.
I like that though, because if you don't know anything about the film and you put it on, you think it's going to be like a road trip movie. You think it's going to be like a road trip. Oh, they've taken them this, they're doing this, and you've got Quentin Tarantino being all pervy, being the character you think he would be in real life, when you're watching the film. And then when they get to the place and it turns into this whole vampire thing, it's like, whoa, it's like, well, this is batshit crazy. And it's just brilliant.
Once again, the makeup effects are done by?
Oh, no, not again.
K&B. And in the film, you have Tom Savini in a scene with Greg Nicotero, his protege, where, remember, he tries to threaten him with the knife, the blonde hair guy with the long hair, that's Greg Nicotero. And then Tom Savini's gun comes out, his cock gun, and he's like, and he gets the whip, takes the drink out of his hand, and so this wasn't planned, but K&B was huge in the 90s. And this is just reminding me, talking about all these films, that a lot of them they did the effects on, or they directed it, or they were part of it in some way.
So how would you rate the 3 movies?
Oh, God, the sequels are horrible. I tried to watch the television series I know Rodriguez had done.
Oh, that was awful.
Well, the pilot was basically a remake of the first film, and then obviously the episodes after that were their own thing. But I couldn't. I hold this film in such high esteem; it was really hard for me to watch the television series. 2 and 3, they're not very good. I mean, if they got put out in a box set, I guess I would own them, but I prefer to own From Dusk Till Dawn by itself. But for people that maybe just showed up late, Malcolm and I are going over our top 5 horror films of the 90s. So I'm going to recap Malcolm's 5. So if people missed it, this is Malcolm's. We got Misery.
Hot Kathy Bates.
The Faculty.
Hot Famke Janssen.
Audition.
Hot.
Wishmaster.
Hot Andrew Divoff.
And Blade. And my top 5 are Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight, Brain Scan, Tales from the Hood, and From Dusk Till Dawn. It was a
Ooh,
great
what a great
decade, man.
list.
I mean, there were some movies I kind of I could have moved them around a little bit.
Yeah.
You can look at The Border. The monster you're looking at is actually from Deep Rising,
Oh, I
which,
wondered. I thought it was.
which Famke Janssen, Treat Williams,
Yep.
a lot of CGI, but a lot of makeup effects by Rob Bottin. Probably one of the last major films he worked on.
Yeah.
Directed by Stephen Sommers right before he did The Mummy. That was in my top 10. It was in my top 5, and then I remembered From Dusk Till Dawn. I kind of moved it out of the top 5, but yeah, man, great decade. Not I like the
I
fact
almost put the relic on.
The Relic.
Yeah.
That era, late night, like 97, 98, there were a lot of creature features. You had Deep
There
Rising,
was.
Alien Resurrection,
Yep.
The Relic, Starship Troopers. There's a lot of great films that I didn't put. We could always do another top 5 of the
Yeah,
90s.
we can do a top. If Bill want more top 5s, we can do them.
Or we could do the worst of the 90s, or we, but
That'd be hilarious because I'd say this was worse. You go, that's not that bad. And then you'd say it. And I'm like, oh, no, that's not bad.
okay, so for the people that are viewers that are watching, what are some of your favorites from the 90s? Put them in the comments and I'll pop them up on the screen and we could talk about them because Malcolm and I have given you our picks. If not, Malcolm and I will just sit here and babble about. You said your Vinegar Syndrome package arrived?
Yeah, it did.
How many movies in total?
29.
That's
And then my television turned up as well.
Now 29 from Vinegar Syndrome. Is your subscription included or is that add-ons?
Oh, that's with the subscription.
But still a lot of movies.
Because I'm counting, obviously, the 3 in the box out.
I got my box coming today. It took a while to get the notification, but they seem to be really, I guess, a new carrier.
They seem more on the ball, though. I mean, mine was shipped a day after the sale.
I want to say they went with a different carrier, that somebody who's quicker. A lot of people.
DHL, they're doing DHL here now instead of FedEx. I don't know if they're doing that with you over there.
Yeah, I don't know. I know mine's is supposed to come with. It actually might be out there on my porch right now. But yeah, I'll probably do an unboxing video when we're done here. But yeah, I love the 90s. Malcolm and I will be back probably in 2 weeks from the day to do a live video.
We're going to do an interview, wouldn't you?
I do have an interview next Monday with one of the actresses from, what is it? Blood and Honey, Winnie Pooh.
Yeah, Winnie the Pooh, Toe, Candyman, and Graveyard Shift.
Urban Legend, directed by Jamie Blanks. It's got Robert Englund. It's got a really good cast. I like the sequels too. They're actually,
You know
fun.
what? The ones I like. I love Urban Legend. I think Urban Legend is great. I love the Daniela Harris Goth when she's killed, and that because she said turn off the light and that. And I love it. Joshua Jackson's in that movie, and Michael Rosenbaum is in that movie. It's a very good movie, Urban Legends. That almost hit my list. But I also like Urban Legend Final Cut as well. I think Final Cut is very underrated. Bloody Mary it's good for what it is.
Bloody Mary is like Final Destination.
Yeah.
Where it's got the creative kills, and it's even got a depth that's similar to the one in Final Destination 3 with a person getting the suntan booth. Gets burned up and stuff.
Isn't it set in the 50s?
Huh?
Isn't Bloody Mary set in the 50s, or is that the beginning?
I don't remember. It might have been a period piece.
I think it's the beginning.
Yeah. Oh, Malcolm and I did a video on the Scream franchise. I like Scream. I feel it's highly overrated, and it's a violent episode of Scooby-Doo. I am very happy that it gave Wes Craven the boost that he needed after a couple movies didn't do so well.
I like the Freddy Krueger. I like Freddy Krueger cameo as well.
Oh, where he's the janitor, and that's Wes Craven.
I love that.
No, I mean, don't get me wrong. Scream is not in my top 10, by the way. It's probably top 20. I dig Wes Craven's New Nightmare would be in my top 10. Lord of Illusions, the last movie Clive Barker ever directed, Lord of Illusions, would be in my top 10.
Do you know I hate that movie?
Yeah, it's a polarizing film. I could see where people would love it or hate it.
I put it on. I put it on again for the first time again in years when I was in the hotel when I moved over. So I picked the Blu-ray up. I was like, "This is trash," right? But again, that could be more so because of the situation I was in at the time. So I would like to try and watch it again because I wasn't in a comfortable place. So the dentist,
Hey,
yes.
Malcolm. Speaking of, Famke Janssen was everywhere in the 90s. She was also in Lord of Illusions.
She was also in the best role of her career as on a top.
Oh, the James Bond, was it Living
He was so high
Daylight?
now. I remember, I've got to say this, before I hit puberty and I watched that movie, I literally found out what it was like to be a man watching that movie.
Actually, Malcolm and I, you can go into my videos, did a retrospective on The Dentist and The Dentist 2, probably about
That's
2
not
months
true.
ago.
I'm sorry,
And
that's not true.
Malcolm's so
I
mad at
did
me.
the retrospective. Someone here said, "Oh, it's just drilling, isn't it?"
Yeah, Malcolm says I should have gone back and watched it like the day before we did the video, where I had watched the double feature Vestron probably like a year before, and he's mad at me I didn't watch it. Yeah, he didn't know who the director of the film was. Brian
Hey,
Usna. I had to educate him that the guy directed Faust, Love of the Damned, and produced Reanimator and From Beyond. So, anyways, no. Dr. Giggles is okay. I need to go back and watch it again.
Dr. Giggles is one of my I've got a friend called Alex, right? Well, I call the Trender Man, and he always sees the cover for Dr. Giggles. He goes, "I wonder how good this movie is," and I go, yeah.
I mean,
again, that's one I haven't seen in years. I haven't even owned the Blu-ray.
Yeah, I think that's Scream Factory put that on Blu-ray.
They did, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a beautiful media book of it in Germany.
The last time I watched it, I wasn't a huge fan, but I do like Larry Drake. Such a great villain in Darkman, and
I might be wrong here. Was Ice Cream Man 90s?
I am a fan with Clint Howard. Yes, that's 95, I believe. Clint Howard. Yeah, Larry Drake is great. He's rest in peace to Larry Drake.
You know what? Talk about nostalgia. Nostalgia is always the reason why we like movies that we watched when we were younger. Because there's movies I like ninja films from like when I watched as a kid. But when I watch them now, I go, "Oh dear, these were awful." But I still love them because they give me those memories.
And
it's
so everybody knows, when Malcolm says ninja films from the 90s, he's talking about Three Ninjas Kick Back, and Three Ninjas at Mountain something with
High Noon Mountain.
See, there you go. He loves that trilogy. He wants a
Did you say Kickback?
Kickback's the second one, right?
There's Three Ninjas, there's Knuckle Up, Kickback, and High Noon Mountain.
There's 4?
There's 4, yeah.
I just remember the artwork for the 4th one had Hulk Hogan on the front,
Yeah, which was awful. I recently got them on Blu-ray from Imprint in Australia.
They're awful, but he just bought them on Blu-ray.
Well, the first one's a classic. The guy, I can never remember the guy's name. Okay. The guy who I called the discount Mr. Miyagi. All right. Pat Morita. The guy who played Egg in Big Trouble in Little China.
The broad from Dawson's Creek would be Katie Holmes.
It would be Katie Holmes. Disturbing Behavior was great.
I like Disturbing Behavior. It felt like it was a teen horror film, but with the twist, it was more, more like a science fiction horror thriller. It's got the director of the film. I don't recall his name, but he came from the X-Files.
Yes.
Late 90s and early 2000s. It was really cool. A lot of people like James Wong.
Yes.
Came from X-Files. Darren Morgan. They directed films like, what was it? The one with Jet Li.
Yes.
The Willard remake. The Black Christmas remake. By the way, I love the Black Christmas remake.
You talk about Black Xmas.
I will die It's not as good as the original, but it's a batshit crazy,
I love it.
thick, giallo type of Black
Oh, I
Christmas
love it.
film that people will talk
I think
on
it's
it.
brilliant.
It is, and guess what? We will come back to Black Christmas right around December, and we will do a retrospective just on that film.
Yes, it's an amazing film.
And it's definitely much better than the Blumhouse Black
It
Christmas
also has
film.
some of the most beautiful women in it.
Oh no, I've said it. I've said it before. That is the most attractive cast I've ever seen.
Yes.
There's not an ugly one amongst them.
Yes, even the yellow people are beautiful in it. And no,
Michelle
I'm not
Trachtenberg,
being...
all those girls, and they were, what's her name from Final Destination 3? Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Yes.
Beautiful cast, but they can act. They weren't just pretty faces. All those girls were very big at the time.
What is it called? Is it the yellow? Is it jaundice?
Jaundice.
Jaundice. That's it.
That yellow pigmentation that usually.
Yeah.
Usually they can, when you're born, they could put you under like an incubator and kind of get rid of it. But some people, but no, I don't want to jump too far into the 2000s. I mean, we could always come back and do.
We will. We've got so many movies we can talk about.
We could do 2000 to 2009. I was just going to do 90s, but talking about these films, I'm starting to get excited for the decade, the first decade of the 2000s.
A film I'd love to talk about is Scream for Help.
Wasn't that 80s?
Yeah, that's Michael Winner movie.
If we do something from the 80s, I don't want to do the normal Friday the 13th, Elm Street. We could do 5 underrated horror films of the 80s that not everybody knows of and talks about.
Like Scream for Help, for instance.
Scream for Help, I've seen it. I own the Blu-ray, but again, a lot of people don't know what it is, probably.
Yeah.
Or a film I just watched last night on Blu-ray from Severin that was excellent hagsploitation film, which was Night Warning, also known as Butcher Baker, Nightmare Maker. Holy crap. That film, I tempted to buy the Code Red DVD years ago.
Yeah.
I did watch it literally at like...
It's on 4K, actually. I've got it over there.
Dude, that movie is great. Talk about a undervalued 80s.
Before we moved, I watched half of it, right? And I had to stop watching it because we had to do stuff for the move. And the bit where she just attacks him in the thing and he walks in is just brilliant.
So, folks, I think we're going to head out. Thank you for everybody who commented and watched. I appreciate it. Malcolm and I will be back in 2 weeks, same time. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, my time, which should be Pacific time. We're going to do the next 5 movies that we want to see put on Blu-ray that have never been put out. But thank you, everybody, for watching. I appreciate it. And everybody have a good day.
Take care, guys. Thanks for watching.